Look, your arteries right now, they're probably not in the shape you think they are. You feel fine. You're walking around, going to work, eating your meals. And meanwhile, on the inside, plaque is quietly building up on the walls of the very pipes that keep you alive. That tightness in your chest when you climb stairs, the way you get winded faster than you used to, the cold hands, the headaches that come out of nowhere. Your body has been trying to tell you something for years, and most people just don't listen until it's too late. Here's the thing nobody wants to say out loud. The cardiology industry in the West is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Statins alone bring in close to 20 billion a year. So when there's a simple morning drink, something a grandmother in Okinawa has been making for breakfast her whole life, that quietly cleans out your arteries. Do you really think anyone with a financial interest is going to put that on the evening news? Of course not. But the Japanese have known about these drinks for centuries, and the data backing them up now from their own universities is honestly hard to ignore. So let's get into it. Number 6, matcha. And I know you've heard of matcha. It's everywhere now. Lattes, ice cream, those overpriced drinks at the coffee shop down the street. But what most people are drinking is not matcha. Not really. Real matcha is the stone-ground powder of shade-grown green tea leaves from places like Uji and Nishio in Japan. It's bright green, almost electric. And it's been part of the Japanese morning ritual for nearly 1,000 years. Now that gunk that builds up inside your arteries, the stuff that eventually causes heart attacks and strokes, a lot of it starts with something called LDL cholesterol getting oxidized. Once it oxidizes, it sticks, it hardens, it narrows the pipe. And you don't feel a thing until one day you do, and by then you're in an ambulance. The reason matcha matters is because of what it does before any of that can happen. Matcha is loaded with a compound called EGCG, epigallocatechin galat. Long name, simple job. It stops LDL from oxidizing in the first place. A study out of Kyushu University followed people drinking matcha daily and found their arterial stiffness measurably improved in about 12 weeks. 12 weeks. And because you're drinking the whole leaf, not just water that touched a leaf, you get up to 137 times more antioxidants than regular green tea. That's not marketing. That's a measurement from the University of Colorado. The Japanese tea masters used to drink matcha before long meditations because it gives you calm, focused energy without the crash. Buddhist monks at temples in Kyoto have been having a bowl of it every morning for 9 centuries. They didn't know about LDL or endothelial function. They just knew they felt clearer, lived longer, and their hearts kept ticking when their neighbors didn't. How you actually use it? Half a teaspoon of ceremonial grade matcha, not the cheap culinary stuff. Whisk it into about 2 ounces of hot water, not boiling, around 75 degrees Celsius. Drink it first thing in the morning, before food. That's when your body absorbs the catechins best. Skip the milk and sugar if you can. They blunt the absorption. And honestly, once you get used to the taste, you start to crave it. But matcha is just the warm-up here. The next one is something most Westerners have never even heard of, and it might be the most powerful of them all. Number 5, mugicha, roasted barley tea. If you've ever been to Japan in the summer, you've had this whether you knew it or not. It's served cold in pretty much every household from June through September. Kids drink it. Grandmothers drink it. Restaurants put it on the table instead of water. And nobody outside Japan really talks about it. You know that feeling after a heavy meal where you can almost feel your blood getting thicker? That sluggish, heavy feeling? That's not in your head. Your blood actually does get more viscous after eating, especially when you're eating a lot of processed food and refined carbs. Thick blood is hard on your heart. It has to push harder. The pressure goes up. The walls of the arteries take a beating year after year. And eventually something gives. Mugicha has a compound called alkylpyrazine. It comes from the roasting process. Researchers at Kyoto Medical University ran a study on it and found it improves blood fluidity within about 30 minutes of drinking it. Your blood literally flows easier, less pressure on the heart, less strain on the vessels, and on top of that, it's completely caffeine-free, so you can drink it all day without messing with your sleep, which by the way is also crucial for heart health. There's a region in Japan called Nagano. Highest life expectancy in the country for decades. And one of the things researchers noticed when they studied the diet there was the constant presence of mugicha, not as medicine, just as the thing they drink. With breakfast, after lunch, before bed, their cardiovascular disease rates are dramatically lower than the rest of Japan, which is already lower than most of the developed world. To make it, you can buy roasted barley grains or tea bags from any Japanese grocery or online. Steep 1 bag in about a liter of hot water for 5 to 10 minutes, then let it cool. Or boil the loose grains for about 15 minutes. Drink it warm in the morning, cold throughout the day. A liter a day is what most Japanese households go through per person in summer. It's so simple, it almost feels like it can't be doing anything, but that's kind of the point. Number 4, umeboshi tea. Okay, this one is going to sound strange if you've never had it. Umeboshi are pickled Japanese plums, sour, salty, intense. Samurai used to carry them into battle because they believed they restored strength and stamina. And the tea made from these plums is something Japanese grandmothers have been making for their husbands for generations, especially the ones with high blood pressure. Here's the situation most people are in and don't realize. Your blood pressure isn't just about salt. It's about something called the renin-angiotensin system, which is basically the hormonal control panel for your blood pressure. When that system gets stuck in the on position, your vessels constrict, your pressure climbs, your heart works overtime, and your arteries get damaged from the inside out. Standard medications block parts of this system. They work. They also come with a list of side effects you've probably read about. Umeboshi contains a compound called mumifuril, which forms during the pickling process. A team at Wakayama Medical University showed that mumifuril improves blood flow and inhibits the same enzyme that ACE inhibitor drugs target, naturally, without the dry cough or the kidney concerns. The plums also contain citric acid that helps dissolve calcium deposits, which is one of the things that hardens your arteries as you age. And look, if any of this is making sense to you, if you're sitting there nodding because you felt some of these things in your own body, you already know what to do. Hit subscribe. I've got a lot more of this knowledge coming, the kind of stuff your doctor isn't going to bring up at your next checkup. There's a village in Wakayama Prefecture where umeboshi production has been the main industry for over 400 years. The locals eat one with breakfast every single day. Their rate of heart disease is roughly half the Japanese national average. The researchers who studied them couldn't find any other variable that explained it. To make the tea, take 1 umeboshi plum, mash it lightly in a cup, pour hot water over it, and let it sit for 3 or 4 minutes. Some people add a tiny bit of grated ginger. Drink it on an empty stomach in the morning. The taste is intense the first time. Sour, salty, a little funky. By the 3rd day, you'll be used to it. By the 2nd week, you'll actually want it. Now, if you only remember one thing from this whole list, make it this next one. Number 3, kombucha. And no, not the trendy stuff in glass bottles at the grocery store with sugar added and weird fruit flavors. The original Japanese kombucha is something different. It's actually called kombucha in Japan, and it's a tea made from kombu kelp, the seaweed. The Western fermented drink borrowed the name and confused everyone. We're talking about the real thing here, the seaweed broth. That feeling of pressure in your chest, the slight ringing in your ears, the way your heart sometimes flutters for no reason. A lot of that traces back to 2 things working together: high blood pressure and inflammation in the lining of your blood vessels. The endothelium, the layer of cells that coats the inside of every artery in your body. When that lining gets inflamed, everything starts going wrong. Plaque sticks to it, pressure climbs, clots become more likely. Kombu kelp is one of the richest natural sources of fukoidan, a compound that researchers at Hokkaido University have been studying for decades. Fukoidan reduces inflammation in the endothelium and has been shown to lower LDL cholesterol while raising the good HDL kind. There's also a compound in it called laminarin that acts almost like a natural blood thinner, reducing the chance of clots forming in already narrowed arteries. And the iodine content supports thyroid function, which directly affects your heart rate and metabolism. The Okinawans, who hold some of the longest life expectancies on Earth, eat kombu in some form almost every day. Soup, tea, dried snacks. The researchers from the Okinawa Centenarian study tracked it for years, and kombu kept showing up in the diets of people who lived past 100 without a single cardiac event. Not statistically significant, statistically loud. Brewing it is dead simple. Take a small piece of dried kombu about the size of a credit card. Drop it in a cup of hot water just under boiling. Let it steep for 5 minutes. You can drink the broth straight or add a pinch of bonito flakes for flavor. 1 cup in the morning. That's all you need. Don't do more than that because of the iodine load. This is the kind of thing that has been hiding in plain sight in Japanese kitchens for 1,000 years while we were busy inventing pills. Number 2, hojicha, roasted green tea. This is what Japanese people drink when they want something gentle. When the kids come home from school, when grandma is winding down for the evening, when someone is recovering from being sick. It's made by taking regular green tea leaves and roasting them over charcoal, which turns them brown, and gives the tea a nutty, almost coffee-like flavor. Here's something most people don't realize. Stress is one of the biggest hidden drivers of heart disease. Not the dramatic kind, the chronic kind, the low-grade tension you carry in your shoulders all day without noticing. That stress keeps your cortisol elevated, which directly damages the inside of your arteries over time. It's why people who seem perfectly healthy on paper sometimes drop dead at 55. It wasn't the cheeseburger, it was the 20 years of clenched jaw. The roasting process in hojicha does something interesting. It dramatically lowers the caffeine, almost to zero, but it preserves a compound called pyrazine, the same family of compounds we saw in mugicha. Pyrazines have been shown in studies from Shizuoka University to widen blood vessels and improve circulation while simultaneously calming the nervous system. Lower cortisol, wider vessels, easier flow, all from one cup. And because there's barely any caffeine, you can drink it before bed, which is huge because most heart attacks happen in the early morning hours when your blood is most concentrated. There's an old tradition at Buddhist temples in Kyoto where the monks drink hojicha after their evening meditation. The temple records mention they specifically chose it because it was gentle on the heart. They'd been observing this for centuries, before anyone could measure cortisol or pyrazines. To prepare it, take about a tablespoon of hojicha leaves, pour hot water over them, let it steep for about 30 seconds. That's all. Hojicha brews fast. You can drink it warm in the morning to start your day calm, or in the evening to unwind. A lot of people in Japan drink it both times, and it doesn't stain your teeth like coffee does. All right, the last one, the one I saved for the end. This is the drink that, if I had to pick just one thing for someone with serious cardiovascular concerns, I would tell them to start with this tomorrow morning. Number 1, natto-derived nattokinase tea. Now, natto itself is fermented soybeans. Sticky, stringy, smells like something died in your kitchen. Most Westerners can't get past the first bite. But what the Japanese figured out is you can extract the active enzyme, nattokinase, and steep it as a warm drink that has none of the texture and almost none of the smell. And what this enzyme does in your body is something genuinely remarkable. Picture your arteries right now. Picture the slow buildup that's been happening for years. The fibrin strands that form little clots and plaques along the walls. Most things you eat or drink can't touch that stuff. It's already there, hardened, layered, set in. This is what causes the actual heart attack. A piece breaks off, blocks a vessel, and that's it. This is also what most medications can only prevent, not reverse. Nattokinase was discovered in 1980 by Dr. Hiroyuki Sumi at the University of Chicago Medical School, who was actually a Japanese researcher studying traditional foods. He found that this enzyme dissolves fibrin directly, not prevents, dissolves. It breaks down existing clots and clears out fibrin deposits that have been sitting in your arteries for years. A study published in Nutrition Research showed measurable reductions in arterial plaque in people taking nattokinase daily for 8 weeks. 8 weeks to start clearing out years of damage. The Japanese have been eating natto for breakfast in the eastern regions of Japan for over 1,000 years. The samurai class in particular ate it religiously. And it's not a coincidence that those regions like Mito and the broader Kanto area have lower rates of stroke and heart attack than the western parts of Japan, where natto isn't traditional. Same genetics, same general diet, different breakfast. The way to use it. You can buy nattokinase as a powder or in capsules from Japanese health stores or online. Take about 2,000 fibrinolytic units, which is usually 1 capsule or half a teaspoon of powder, stirred into warm water, not hot water, that destroys the enzyme. Warm. Drink it in the morning on an empty stomach or in the evening before bed. A lot of practitioners actually recommend evening because clots tend to form during sleep when your circulation slows. One thing to know, if you're already on blood thinners like warfarin, you need to talk to your doctor before adding this. The combination can be too strong. But if you're not on anything and you're worried about your arteries, this is the most direct tool I know of from the entire Japanese tradition. So that's 6 drinks, 6 things people in Japan have been having for breakfast for centuries, while the rest of the world was busy inventing reasons why heart disease is just inevitable. It's not. Your body knows how to repair itself when you give it the right inputs. These aren't miracles. They're not secrets, really. They're just things that got lost in translation, buried under newer, shinier products that cost more and do less. Pick one, just one. Start tomorrow morning. Stick with it for a month and pay attention to how you feel. That's how all of this works. Not overnight, not in a week, but it works. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.